Ready for a deep dive into enlightenment. We're exploring a path that's a little off the beaten path using Osho's The Book of Wisdom. Today, it's all about Atisha's 7 points of mind training. And just a heads up, this isn't your typical self-help guide.
Oh, you're in for a ride. Because enlightenment, it's not a straight line. It's about really questioning everything you think you know and then embracing the detours, especially the ones in your own head.
And speaking of unexpected turns, get this, Atisha had not one, not two, but 3 enlightened masters. That's why they called him Atisha the Thrice Great.
It's like trying to summit Everest. You've got options, multiple routes, each with its own hurdles, its own breathtaking views. And each of the masters Atisha learned from, they highlighted a different facet of enlightenment.
Yeah.
Emptiness, compassion, and get this, active compassion.
Wait, hold up. Active compassion, like compassion with an extra shot of, I don't know, espresso.
You could say that. Think of it this way. All those paths, they lead to the same peak. But the journey, the experiences along the way, completely unique. And that's the beauty of Atisha's approach. He blended these teachings, crafted this incredibly well-rounded approach to enlightenment.
And those teachings lead us right to his 7 points of mind training. They're like our treasure map, right? To that thrice great wisdom. Point 1. First, learn the preliminaries. Sounds straightforward enough, like packing the right gear before setting off on an adventure. So what are the essentials for someone starting this spiritual journey?
Now, this is where things get really interesting. Because the first preliminary, so simple, it's almost deceptive. Ready? Truth already exists.
Yeah.
You're already immersed in it. Like, imagine a fish swimming in the ocean, right? They don't need to find water, do they?
So are you saying we're already swimming in enlightenment but completely clueless? Is our mind the obstacle? Like that distracting notification that keeps us from seeing what's right in front of us?
Bingo. And that, my friend, leads us directly to Atisha's second point. Think that all phenomena are like dreams.
Okay, now we're getting a little trippy, right? You want me to go about my day work, this conversation, even that traffic jam later, as if it's all some crazy dream.
Exactly. Picture it as you move through your day, talking, working, interacting. Imagine it's all a dream. It's not solid. It's not permanent. Heck, it might not even be real in the way we usually think.
So, if everything's a dream, who or what is the dreamer? Is that what we're getting at?
You're catching on quickly. And that's the question Atisha invites us to explore with his third point. Examine the nature of unborn awareness.
We're going deeper now. We've tackled this idea that everything is like a dream. Now we're shifting focus to the observer, the one watching the dream. Unborn awareness. Help me wrap my head around this.
Think of it like this. True awareness, that ability to witness all the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations without getting swept away. It's not bound by something as insignificant as birth or death. It simply is.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. This awareness is like the silent observer behind the scenes, right? But how does really grasping this, like truly understanding it, how does that free us from suffering? I mean, my problems may feel like a bad dream sometimes, but they still feel real.
Right, of course your experiences feel real. But when you tap into the unborn, the undying essence of who you are, that's when you can detach. You stop clinging so tightly to those experiences. You realize they're not me, they're not mine.
So it's not about denying reality, but shifting our perspective on it. That's powerful. But then Atisha throws us this curveball with his 4th point. Let even the remedy itself go free on its own.
Wait, what? We're just getting comfy with this dream analogy, and now we gotta let it go.
You see, our minds, they love to cling, even to the very things that help us. It's like using a boat to cross a river. You reach the other side, you don't keep carrying the boat, do you?
That's a funny thought. So these mind training tools, the analogies, the visualizations, they can get us to a certain point, but then we have to be willing to let go.
Yeah.
Trust that those aha moments, those insights, they stick with us. Exactly. True freedom is about letting go of clinging to anything, really.
Yeah.
Even the stuff that got us here.
Okay, yeah, I see that. But if we release the methods, the visualizations, everything we've been talking about, what's left, where do we land? Atisha's 5th point hints at something. Settle in the nature of basic cognition, the essence. Now that sounds peaceful.
It is, isn't it? Imagine settling into the very core of your being, into the essence of who you truly are. And here's the best part. It's not something you force. It's not an achievement. It happens naturally. It's the result of letting go. It's where pure, effortless awareness bubbles up. This is the foundation of who you are at your core, the awareness that simply is, always has been, always will be.
So it's not about reaching some heightened state of consciousness out there, but recognizing something that's already here, right now. This awareness, it's like it's always been hiding in plain sight.
Yes, like coming home to a place you never even realized you'd left.
But And I'm sure Atisha knew this. Those glimpses of awareness, that feeling of coming home, it can be fleeting. At least I imagine it is at first. Because our minds, they love to wander off. Back to those old habits, those familiar thought patterns, which is where his sixth point comes in, right? Between sessions, consider phenomena as phantoms. He gets it. We can't exist in a blissful state 24/7.
Exactly. Between sessions are those moments when we're not meditating, when that mental chatter creeps back in. But we have a choice. We can return to that dream analogy. Visualize the world as this fleeting, ever-shifting dream. It's a way to loosen the ego's grip, to avoid getting tangled in those illusions.
It's like a gentle nudge to guide us back, isn't it? Back to that space of awareness. But Atisha, he doesn't leave us just observing. He introduces a more active practice in his seventh point. Train in joining, sending, and taking together. Do this by riding the breath. I love that he ties this to the breath. It makes it feel so grounded, so doable. So what does this practice look like?
It's about cultivating compassion, deep, genuine compassion. Imagine this. As you breathe in, you're taking in all the suffering in the world, the pain, the fear, the despair. And as you exhale, you're sending out love, joy, blessings to everyone, everywhere.
Wow. It's like the opposite of what a lot of those self-help gurus preach, isn't it? They tell you to block out negativity, reject it. This is about leaning in, about transforming it through compassion.
Precisely. And this practice, when you approach it with an open heart, with sincerity, it's transformative.
Yeah.
And not just for you, for everyone around you.
So we've gone from this idea of recognizing emptiness, like everything being a dream, to actively cultivating compassion in our lives, from observing to engaging. But Atisha doesn't stop there, does he? He brings in this whole other concept: 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 bases of virtue. It's like some ancient alchemical recipe for enlightenment. What's he getting at here?
He's talking about transformation, about taking those negative emotions, those thought patterns we all get stuck in, and turning them into, well, sources of virtue, sources of wisdom. The 3 objects he's talking about are aversion, attachment, and indifference. Kind of like, I don't know, 3 legs of the mind. But here's the thing. Each one has this potential to create suffering.
Okay, so aversion is like pushing away the stuff we just don't want to deal with. Attachment is, well, clinging to the good stuff. And indifference is that feeling of, like, who cares? I'm oversimplifying, but am I on the right track?
Absolutely. You've got it. Aversion, attachment, indifference. And Atisha, he saw these not just as problems, but as opportunities. He believed that practicing compassion, like we were just talking about with that breath practice, that can actually dissolve these poisons. Like magic, they transform into virtues.
Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. Turning those base metals into gold. I can see how compassion might help with overcoming aversion, but what about attachment? I mean, I'm pretty attached to my morning coffee.
I hear you. The key here is understanding that attachment usually comes from a place of lack. We think our happiness depends on these external things, that next cup of coffee, that promotion, whatever it is. But when we start cultivating compassion, something shifts. We start feeling more connected, like we're part of something bigger. And that brings a sense of fullness, of abundance, like we already have everything we need.
So we're not just these isolated individuals, but part of this incredible web of life. And that feeling, that sense of belonging, it helps loosen the grip of attachment.
Exactly. And as for indifference, well, imagine this. You're practicing compassion, sending out love, joy, kindness. It's pretty tough to stay indifferent when your heart is open like that, isn't it?
That's a good point. It's like we're shifting from being passive observers in our own lives to active participants, bringing light to those darker corners, not by pretending they don't exist, but by radiating something brighter.
Exactly. It's not about rejecting those parts of ourselves that we might label as negative. It's about recognizing the potential for transformation within them. And that's what Atisha's teachings are all about, a fundamental shift from fear and separation to a place of love and interconnectedness.
So we're not just striving for personal enlightenment, but recognizing that our own awakening is somehow connected to the awakening of everyone and everything around us. Which is a beautiful thought, but honestly, it can feel a little overwhelming, right? I mean, it's one thing to contemplate these ideas in a quiet space, but how do we actually live them out in the thick of it? When we're stressed, dealing with difficult people, stuck in traffic, how do we remember Atisha's wisdom when we need it most? It's like we're graduating from me against the world to we're all in this together. But that can feel like a big leap, right? To actually live that way, especially when things get messy. How do we make that shift from like intellectual understanding to actually embodying these teachings, especially when life throws those curveballs?
You've hit on something really crucial. Because Atisha, he wasn't about escaping reality, but transforming our experience of it. And he gives us tools to do just that. He encourages us, challenges us really, to take these insights, these beautiful ideas, and bring them into the trenches of daily life.
So no hiding out in a cave then. We can actually integrate this ancient wisdom into our modern, often chaotic lives. But how? I mean, things get so hectic. Work deadlines, that frustrating conversation you know you're going to have, even just sitting in traffic. It's so easy for those old habits to resurface, for the mind to get caught up in the drama of it all.
Here's where Atisha's teachings get really practical. He uses this phrase, train with phrases in every mode of behavior. I love that. It's like he's giving us these little reminders, almost like mental post-it notes, to place throughout our day.
So instead of just thinking about these concepts in a theoretical way, we're actively integrating them into our actions, our reactions, our very way of being in the world.
Precisely. Let's say you encounter a frustrating situation, right? Instead of getting swept away by that anger, that irritation, you pause, take a breath, and you remember. Breathe in suffering, breathe out joy. You shift from reacting to responding, from a place of awareness.
So you're creating a new habit, a new way of showing up that's rooted in compassion, not just for others, but for yourself too, right?
Exactly. And maybe you notice that old friend attachment creeping in, that desire to cling to something good or that aversion, that urge to push away something unpleasant. And you remind yourself it's like a dream, a fleeting, impermanent dream.
Not denying those feelings, but not letting them control us either.
Yes, it's about creating space, allowing those feelings to move through us without dictating our actions or defining our experience. And through it all, Atisha reminds us to keep returning to that center, that place of stillness within, to that unborn, undying awareness that's always there, no matter what's happening around us.
It's like we're cultivating this inner stability, this groundedness that allows us to weather the storms of life with more grace, more resilience.
Beautifully put. And that resilience, that groundedness, it comes from recognizing and embodying that enlightened mind, what's called bodhicitta. And it's not some distant shore we have to struggle to reach. It's present in each and every moment.
It's not about achieving some superhuman level of perfection, but about those small daily acts of awareness. Those moments of choosing compassion, of responding with presence, even amidst the craziness.
You've got it. And that's the heart of Atisha's message, this potential for wisdom, for compassion, for enlightenment. It's not something outside of us. It's already here, within each and every one of us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Atisha's 7 points of mind training, I hope you're left with this, a sense of possibility. That maybe, just maybe, these teachings, these ancient practices, can help you unlock more joy, more freedom, and more love in your own life. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and may these teachings guide you on your own unique path.